Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to episode 5 of Wrong Turn. So I started working on this section right here like 2 weeks ago before I went on my trip to Dollywood. So it's been a while since I've actually seen this footage. I think what we're going to continue to do here, as usual, is do a lot of tree placement. We actually get a lot done in this episode. We get a lot of trees down, and I start working on the bunker. So we'll see that too as we finish up this episode. And I think I said in the last episode that I wanted to start going with a sort of a autumnal feel to this. I think I said that several times actually, because it's that time of year here in Maryland, just outside of DC where I live now. And it's one of my favorite times of the year, and I kind of like the way it looks. In terms of this coaster, it's something new for me. I've never really done this sort of theme before, so we really start to play that up in this episode. The one thing I really wish that NoLimits would do, which would be nice, I guess they're probably not that useful because most people don't use the fall foliage trees very often, but it would be nice if we had some 3D fall foliage, just because either I'm missing it or else it doesn't exist. Just because it's a little bit difficult to use those 2D trees effectively. You have to be kind of strategic with their placement, but it's not too hard to do either. All you really have to do is sort of mix them into a 3D tree, and of course use them farther away. You can see right there on the right where I've sort of mixed it into the 3D tree, so you don't see those harsh edges just quite as much. And it kind of makes sense, not the way that one looks, but trees do tend to lose their leaves or change leaves color in differently as throughout the tree. Parts of it will be green and parts of it won't be. So, and here I put a fallen tree down just because I like the way that looked. And in the dream I had actually that inspired this coaster, there were a lot of fallen trees along the side of the river. So I put that one down. I do like the way it looks. I might put another one down. I move it in just a minute because it's kind of in the shadow there and you can't see it. But I'll move it in just a second. So I might put a few more of those down. I like the way that looks. And that particular tree actually looks good for that. I cannot remember if NoLimits has any trees without foliage. I don't think it does. I'll have to look, because obviously that would make a better fallen tree, or it would look like a tree that had not fallen so recently. This one looks like it just fell over just that second. But you can see I am spamming the hell out of those little rocks. I really like those things. If you use enough of them, it looks really good, especially mixed in with this texture I found, which was a riverbed texture, which kind of shows rocks, what rocks look like under a stream or a creek like that. So I'm really digging the way that looks. I think it's coming out well, and I'm just kind of putting some foliage along the riverbank, just trying to make it look natural, make it look real. I pay a lot of attention actually. When I was in North Carolina before I went to Dollywood, there was a little stream at the hotel, directly beside the hotel I was staying at, and I took a lot of video and pictures of it just because it was so picturesque, and I wanted to use sort of the way it looked in this build to kind of get an idea of naturalism here. So you see I'm putting some of the rocks down as usual from Flux's Rock Pack. They look great. Unfortunately, you can hardly even see them from the ride. That's one thing I noticed as I was watching some of the footage, or actually when I took a ride on it just to see what it was looking like. A lot of this extra work I do, you really can't even see it, but I like to do it. It relaxes me, like I've said 100 times, and just makes the overall look of realism, it just makes it look much more realistic. So I'm going to continue to do it because it's one of the things I think I'm good at. So anyway, so we're just going to continue up through here. We're putting just sort of in the out and back portion of the ride, we're just filling in the foliage because I did want this to be a terrain ride based on what how I saw it in the dream I had. And so naturally I love rides like that. They're my favorite type of ride by far. So that's generally what I tend to do. So we're just going to be filling this in. We're pretty much finished except for the very back end of the ride, and that won't be too difficult. So I think I will finish that up in the next episode, and we'll be done with this section. Then we'll just continue to work on the actual bunker itself. What you'll see once we get started on the SketchUp of that is I just do some basic building, kind of blocky building, just because it's supposed to be a concrete bunker left over from, say, the 40s or the 50s or something like that. So it's not necessarily meant to be some really high style sort of thing, but for right now it's just very blocky. I'll fix it up a little bit. We'll add a little bit to make it a little bit more realistic, a little bit more exciting to look at. And then I have a surprise, actually, because, as I said earlier, I went to Dollywood, and it's been a long time since I've been there, and I was just captivated by that park. I'm sure if you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. It's a beautiful park. It's really, I think it became my favorite theme park. And I also surprisingly really fell in love with the Tennessee Tornado. I am not an aero fan at all by any stretch. I really dislike aero coasters in general, but that is a good ride. I really enjoyed it quite a bit. It was the smoothest ride there, smoother even than Lightning Rod, I thought. And probably, I guess, here we go in SketchUp, by the way. I guess Wild Eagle was pretty smooth too, but for some reason I just love that ride, and especially a night ride on it was awesome. It was like pitch black, and you couldn't even tell what was happening. You could barely tell what was up and what was down. So I'm going to do my first aero ever. I've never done an aero in NoLimits just because I dislike them so much, but I'm going to go ahead and do one, and I'm going to include it as part of this little park here. So that'll be coming up in future episodes. But let's talk about what we're doing right now. So you see we're flipping back and forth between SketchUp and NoLimits 2. Basically what I do when I do this is I make one building, I export it and import it into NoLimits 2, and then especially when you're trying to get things to line up and this sort of thing, you can just go back to NoLimits, click on that building and hit reload, and whatever changes you make will immediately pop back up, assuming you export it from SketchUp each time. So that's a real quick, see right there, I just reloaded it real fast. And that's a real quick way to just go back and forth between the two programs and get what you want. So you do see a little bit of my building here. The only annoying part of this was that I had to keep switching the record on and off to go back and forth. So I kind of did a portion of it, and then we kind of jumped to the finale of what the building looked like up to that point. So in the next episode, we will continue to work on this building. And also, I just put this texture that's in SketchUp on at first to get an idea of what the concrete would look like. We will go live in just a few minutes. Not live, but we'll go and look in NoLimits because I found a much better texture. I went looking for a better texture. I did some magic to it in GIMP. And it's a very mossy, sort of faded concrete that looks much older than what we have here. This kind of stands out as very stark and brand new, and that's not at all what I was going for. So we'll do that in just a minute. You can go ahead and wait a minute. Let's see how much time we have left. We still have a few minutes before we go live. So let me see if I can think of anything else to yap about on this build. Like I said, I'm going to do the sort of Tennessee Tornado inspired ride. I have not decided how or where it's going to be yet, but I'm really excited to do that just because that was such a surprise coaster for me. I was really shocked by how much I liked that ride. I think I ended up riding that more than anything else because Lightning Rod I only got to ride 3 times because it closed down. It was only open for a little while. It opened late and it closed early, but I felt lucky just to be able to get to ride it. So that's going to be about it for this portion. I'm going to go ahead and just let the music play, and I'll come back live in about 30 seconds and we'll take a look at the bunker. So stay tuned. Alright, so we're back, and here you can see that I found a much better texture for the bunker. It's sort of a really dirty looking concrete with a lot of mold and old growth on it, I'll probably go ahead and make that a little bit darker. And it still sticks out because the building itself is just kind of a big square, but we'll take care of that. So let's go over here. We'll take a look at the other side of it. You can see it definitely blends in a lot better now. It doesn't stick out quite so much. So that looks better. I'll continue to work on that in the next episode. Like I said, let me move back here so we don't hear all that noise. I'll continue to work on that in the next episode, but you see this is coming along. It looks pretty nice. So I think what I will do is somewhere over here. This is supposed to be the park section back here. So there'll still be trees, of course, back here. This is supposed to be pretty much the tail end of the park, right here. Where you would be coming in to get on the coaster and you really can't see anything of it, kind of like the Beast or something like that. So I think I will put the tornado type ride along here somewhere, and I might just try to build it using the terrain I've already formed. We'll see, and I'll probably put some rides and stuff down over here just to give it a little bit more realism. So, but that's going to be about it for this episode. The next time we come back, we'll be working on this in SketchUp. But otherwise, take care, and I'll talk to you next time.